Okay. Yep. Now I see it. All right. Cool. All right. Jeek Nation, what is going on? I am your man, Rocky Mr. Magic. And this is our NBA at 75 part one reaction video. I am here with my man, Matt Fresh Walker. Matt, welcome to the program.
Yes. First and foremost, Rocky Mr. Magic, thank you for having me. Jeek Nation, what's up? What's up, fellas? Let's get right on to it.
Yes, indeed. So, starting off, we are going to talk about this NBA at 75 here, because this is what we're here to do. 75 years, like Fresh, can you even like fathom that's been 75 years?
Yeah, no, that's insane, man. Like way before my time. Absolutely. But I'm just happy, man. I'm happy that, the NBA has been around for that long. It's a great sport. And definitely more success to the future, right?
Absolutely.
So that top 100 comes out in what, 25 more years.
Hey, hopefully we still around for that.
Absolutely.
Because we could be like, man, I remember the top 50 came out. I remember that top 75, then the top 100. As an old man sitting on the porch, I remember them days. back in them 1900s. Y'all youngins don't remember that. So we've got 75 years of NBA basketball, but my first thing I want to talk to you about is we have 76 players on this list because apparently there was a tie in voting. So how do you feel about there being an extra player on this list? Do you kind of feel that it's, they gave somebody something that they probably shouldn't have?
Yeah, I definitely think, there was a lot of surprises of players, especially the new age players that made the list. Not to take anything away from them. It was just more so of like, wow, like I'm a huge Damian Lillard fan. And I was just taken back that he actually made the list, I was like, wow, like Damian Lillard made it. And I get it. Don't get me wrong. He's must-watch TV.
Absolutely.
Kind of like Russell Westbrook, right? Must-watch TV. But I was just surprised, accolades-wise, like, what has Damian Lillard actually had to make this list, right?
That's the question of the hour. Like, and he was the most glaring addition that I saw. Was like, I love Dame. And to me, Dame is a throwback. Like, I could put Dame 20 years ago, and Dame's going to be nice in that era.
Oh,
he has the mentality of a, late 90s, early 2000s ball player. He's got the grit. He goes after it. Like, I love the type of player that Dame is, but my man does not have the accolades. He's got no MVPs. He's got no championships. He's got no finals MVPs. Like, he hasn't been most improved. Like, he's not defensive player of the year. Like, my man, he's good, but to me, if you're going to be on a list like this, it has to be a situation where you can't tell the story of basketball without talking about this guy. You can tell the story of basketball without Damian Lillard.
I can agree to that. Because even with the shot taking and shot making ability that he brings, right? We call him Local Lillard for a reason. But absolutely, like, you got Steph. Steph is going to go down as probably, the known player for making those type of shots, right? Because he's more efficient, and everybody knows him, broadly, that he is the greatest shooter of all time. So, to piggyback on, your take, absolutely, you could definitely tell the story of basketball without Damian Lillard. And you're right. Definitely, if you're going to be on a list like this, you definitely should be like a transcendent player. Not to say he's not, but, like you said, can you tell the story without this particular person? And Dame Lillard, you can definitely tell the story without him.
Absolutely. To me, that was just like, I saw 76 people, and I'm like, that's weird. But then I was like, Damian Lillard, okay.
Definitely one of the biggest surprises.
Definitely a big surprise. So then we've got, now when you looked at this list, and in the list, for those who don't know, the list was released different days in like chunks, so we can kind of like absorb this list. We've got a hodgepodge of names from different eras, including a lot like Lillard from this current era.
Mm-hmm.
So, of the current era guys, aside of Damian, are there any ones that you look at this list and say, I don't know if he should be here?
Another surprise probably from this year.
Mm-hmm.
From this era, I'll probably say Anthony Davis is another one. Not to take, anything away from him, but I was surprised Anthony Davis made it over, a lot of other guys. Definitely surprised by that. Not to take anything away from Anthony Davis. He is an NBA champion. The 8-time All-Star, I believe. Probably going to be, 9 this year. But, what is he, like a 2-time, maybe 3-time block leader in the NBA? So definitely, it was just a surprise to see him on the list. Not to say that he's not deserving of the list. I definitely think, can you probably name 75 players better than Anthony Davis? It would probably be hard too, right? But I was surprised that he made the list. I definitely was, especially over the likes of some greats that didn't make the list.
Absolutely. I gotta agree with you. His name kind of popped out to me because, I mean, I like AD, but I kind of feel the way you do. Like I think of big guys. I think of power forwards or centers, because that's what they pretty much switch in between power forward and center. To me, he's a natural, more of a power forward, but sometimes he's played both. And I think of the great power forwards or centers, and I'm like, okay, AD's great, and he's got those guard skills for a big that people drool over. But I'm looking at the list and I look at him and I'm like, is he better than Alonzo Mourning? Like, I don't know about that. There's just a question mark for me there. However, there are question marks for me with some older players that I happen to love, but I've always kind of had question marks. And in reality, when the 50 dropped back in '96, Shaq was on the top 50 list, and he was in his 4th season. So some of this preemptive adding has happened before. I didn't agree with Shaq being on there, and he said himself it was too soon. But time told that was the correct move, but it was still a bit early. For AD, I still think it's a bit early. But also, there's some old heads here who probably should come off. I'll give you an example. And shout out to my man, Jewel Spears, who hopefully will be on discussing this next week. He mentioned one name that I had the same thought about, was Lenny Wilkens. Like when people think about Lenny Wilkens, they don't think about him on the court. They think about him as a coach.
Yep.
Winning the title as a coach in Seattle, winning all those games, there's a consecutive playoff run as a coach, for all those years with the Hawks and the Cavs. But no one, like even old school players, really don't talk about Lenny on the court. They're like, yeah, when he played, he was nice, but no one talks about Lenny being this great transcendent player. They don't talk about him as a point guard the way they talk about Zeke or Magic or Tiny Archibald or Oscar or Pistol. They don't talk about him the way they talk about those guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I agree to that. I definitely think Lenny was probably deserving of the top 50, right? He's a little before my time, so I couldn't watch him personally play. But I did watch a lot of the old games, so I'm not going to say that he doesn't have game. He definitely could play. But, I think he was deserving of the top 50, but career-wise, top 75, I can definitely name, 75 players that I think, hands down, even some new age players that was better than Lenny Wilkens. So I definitely agree with you and Jules there. He was definitely a surprise. Another surprise for me was Bill Walton. I definitely think Bill Walton was a surprise, and it's not to take anything away from Bill Walton. I definitely think he's a great player, but he was full of injuries, right? It was an injury-plagued career. He had the Portland run against the 76ers, winning that NBA title, great.
Yes.
Hands off to him. Finals MVP, absolutely. But I definitely think he got on this list full of just potential and, and what he did in college. Deserving of the top 50, absolutely. Top 75, now it becomes a little wish-washy, right? Because now a lot of generations.
You said top 50. I said he didn't belong in the top 50. Because and you are 100%, I could 100% agree with you on the potential. Bill Walton, we talk about what ifs, we talk about what if Grant Hill didn't get injured, or what if T-Mac didn't get injured, or what if this. Bill Walton is one of those original what if players. Yep. And because he was so dominant in college, everyone has continually had this, well, Bill Walton. Now, I'm okay with him being in the Basketball Hall of Fame because it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, and what you did in college and the pros counts towards that. But when we're talking about NBA lists and NBA 50 and NBA 75, I'm sorry. I know he had a great short peak, and he got that MVP, and he won that title as the man in Portland. But 13.3 points a game and 10 boards a game is his career averages. I think he scored a grand total of I forget. I think how many? I think it was 5,000 points career total. The man he didn't do much because he was always hurt. Now when he was healthy, we saw two flashes of him healthy. A couple years in Portland and that 1 year in '86 in Boston, where he won the sixth man and he won the other title with the Celtics. And he was and everyone's man, what if Bill Walton had been healthy for all these years? But it's still a massive what if. To me, as great as he was for that short period of time, you can tell the story without Bill Walton.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
He's just it's so much. They make this exception for him purely based off of these flashes of brilliance. Other people have had flashes of brilliance, and they're not here. I can't vibe with Bill Walton on this list.
Jason McGrady, Vince Carter, Yao Ming, all injury-plagued seasons. They make this list, and you can argue all three of those guys are better than Bill, so.
Or at least they had, even if you're not sure about better, they had longer peaks. They had longer primes. T-Mac had a good 10 years before the injuries really, really got to him. Grant Hill had the one of the best 6-year starting runs we've ever seen in NBA history.
Absolutely. Those Detroit numbers in Detroit times were insane.
Yeah, his Detroit years were insane. Vince had, once he got back from injury, he had an extended career. He just stopped playing last year.
Yep.
And he was still productive at 42 years old.
Which is insane. 22 years in the league, man.
Just wow. So when you have longer peaks than this guy who had, a total of maybe 4 of 10 seasons where he could really actually play.
Yep.
I gotta say no. And I will put in somebody who I think is in a little too soon, like an Anthony Davis, or maybe a James Harden, over someone like Bill Walton, who just unfortunately just had flashes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely think, James Harden and Anthony Davis, another new guy, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I definitely think, they were surprised to be on this list, but definitely well deserving, right? Giannis is a, NBA champion. He's an MVP 2 times,
Yeah.
defensive player of the year, 5-time, I think, straight all NBA, 5-time all defensive player. Like Giannis, he's always been transcendent up, right? Always going upwards. And the mentality and heart that kid plays with, you can't teach that, right? I think probably outside of Giannis, the only person that can probably rival the heart that he plays with is probably Russell Westbrook, right?
Yeah,
There's probably no
those
one else
they
that
go hard.
plays, 110% full go all game long. Like they just don't teach that. It's either you got it or you don't. James Harden, he brought, even though they made the James Harden rule this year, that's kicking in, and it's kind of funny because you see him struggling a lot, right, to score.
I love it because it looks like real basketball now. Like these guys aren't throwing their bodies around and getting these ridiculous calls. I like it.
Absolutely. But hey, man, as far as like scoring the basketball and putting the basketball in the hoop, he's probably one of the greatest to ever do it, right? Always knows how to get to the free throw line. He brought back, that step back, man, that's going to be transcendent. You see players now even trying to do Harden's move. So I give it to him. I definitely think he was deserving on this list. It's crazy to think that OKC core, all three of them made this list. And, it sucks that, that
they couldn't stay together.
Oh, man. And always, it's going to be one of the biggest what ifs in history, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because one thing you mentioned the rule. I love the rule. And shout out to my man, Isaiah Seaborn, for his comments here as he's watching. He said, Vince not making it is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
And commenting that Vince is also the greatest dunker ever, which I completely concur.
Absolutely.
Vince is the greatest dunker ever. Absolutely. But looking at like someone like Harden, I like this rule because I think this is going to make James Harden be more like OKC James Harden, where he's going to actually have to play some defense because he can't exert all that energy on offense trying to get calls he's not going to get anymore. And I think this is going to make him an even more effective passer than he was before because he will attempt to get some shots. He will continue to draw double teams, and he'll be able to hit open men. And so I really would love to see a return of that more balanced James Harden that we saw in OKC. It doesn't have to come off the bench, but just that more balanced game. And I think he'll be more dangerous playing that more balanced game.
Absolutely. He's definitely a natural point guard. One of the best passes in the league. Definitely.
Yeah, he's got great vision. And Giannis, especially after winning the title this summer, there's no way you cannot have Giannis on this list. And it seems premature because he's still He's only 28 or 20, something like
young,
that.
like 26, 27.
26, 27. He's still so young, but you listed his accolades, and he's got 2 MVPs. He's got a DPO. He's got a DPOI, and he's got a championship in Milwaukee.
Yep.
Where we hadn't seen a chip since Kareem.
Yep.
Kareem wasn't even Kareem yet. He was still Lou Alcindor.
Yep.
He hadn't even changed the name yet. So it's like you've got to put Giannis in there, despite the fact that he might have 8 to 10 more years still left in his career.
Absolutely. And he's deserving. So I definitely think Giannis is probably going to go down as probably one or top 2 power forwards to ever play this game, right? I don't think he could probably catch Tim Duncan. It's going to be hard. But the way he's going, he's going to be probably 1A or top 2. Definitely.
Catching Duncan would be really hard because he doesn't have the fundamentals. He doesn't have the offensive fundamentals that Tim had. If he had that shot, if he had that bank shot and that face up from the top of the top of the free throw line, at the elbow that Duncan had, I can't even imagine what Giannis would be if he had a shot like that. And the thing is, he works at it. Unlike a Ben Simmons, who's not working on his game, Giannis is continually to work on his game. And if he gets a shot, shout out to Lonzo Ball for looking like a completely different player. Absolutely. You know, I would love to see in 25 years Lonzo Ball on the top 100 list.
I'll be insane.
I would
pretty
love
sure his
to
father
see
would
that.
love that too.
I mean,
see him and his brother, right?
We know his father would love to see that, but I would love to see it for Lonzo because he's put in the work, changed his game so much. Yep. That shot looks so much more fluid and natural. Yep. He's a better ball handler than he was when he came into the league. He's still a good defender. He's just as good as a passer, if not a little bit better.
Great floor general. Floor general.
And he knows his role.
Absolutely.
Which is a thing that's lost in a lot of today's generational players. A lot of them don't know their role.
Absolutely.
And Lonzo embraces his role.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give you a name that I think could be dropped from this list. Okay. And I want to get your idea whether you think this person would be worthy of being dropped. And I hate to say it because I respect him a lot, and what he did for the Knicks is amazing. But there's so many guards on this list. To me, Clyde Frazier could be left off this list. What do you think?
I definitely think, Clyde Frazier could have been left off this list. Even though he brought a championship to, New York.
Two of them.
Yeah, two. Absolutely right. But, like you said, this list is very guard heavy. And there's a lot of some great players, man. Like Adrian Dantley didn't even make this list, which I was surprised by that,
I'm not surprised by that. But,
oh yeah, why not?
Because it's funny because me and Jewel were talking about AD because I was hoping he would join us tonight. AD is a great player. And if you're watching this and you never saw AD play, AD was Melo before Melo. He got the ball, he got buckets. You could not stop him. If you were wondering one reason why John Stockton has all those assists, it's because he played with not just Karl Malone, who was a top scorer in history. He played with Adrian Dantley, who was a top bucket getter in basketball. He was a black hole. The ball stopped. He got the ball, and it wasn't moving again. He was going to do about 15 pump fakes and shuffles and get his shot off, and he couldn't jump to save his life, but he got buckets. And AD had two big problems. One, he thought he was better than he was, especially in Utah and in Detroit. He thought he was the man, and he wasn't the man. And in Detroit, it caused a much bigger problem because everybody and their mama knew that was Zeke's team, and it wasn't going to change. And it was built around Zeke, and as it should have been. And AD did not like that. He thought it should have been built around him because he was the one guy that everyone knew they could throw it to him, and he was going to get a bucket. Because when they had Zeke as the only person who could do that, all you had to do was just pack the paint, and you made it a lot tougher for Zeke to get his because, I mean, let's keep it real. He was 6 foot, buck 85, buck 90, in there with the great giants of that era. You got Kareem down there, Ralph Sampson, Hakeem, Mark Eaton, Moses Malone, and just big bodies like Kevin Willis and Tree Rollins, just Oakley, Ewing, Rick Smits, all those people just packing the paint. Like, what is Zeke supposed to do? He's a 6 foot point guard. So you have AD 6'4", 6'5", broad, and he can get those buckets. But he thought it was about him. He thought he was that dude. And that soured a lot of people, a lot of writers who vote on this soured him on them, and he was never able to be the man. He had when they sent him to Dallas, and for Mark Aguirre, who was Dallas's best player, he had a chance to try to establish himself as the man. He couldn't do that. Derek Harper ended up becoming the man after that trade for Dallas. So, I'm not surprised AD's not on this list. He's one that he should be an honorable mention. Absolutely in that honorable mention discussion. But you can tell the story of basketball without AD, as great as he was.
I agree. It's just, like you said, he was a walking bucket. I think he got over 20,000 career points. I don't know the exact number.
Well, he was, I believe he was 9th on the list when he retired.
Yeah, see? So he made top 10 when he retired. Definitely, I think he probably was, 6, 7-time All-Star. He scored and, was definitely one of the top 2 scorers on every team that he's been on, right?
Oh, yeah. Let's just run down real quick. 6-time All-Star, 2-time scoring champ, 2-time All-NBA, all rookie team, rookie of the year. Averaged 24.3 points for his career.
You see? Yeah, that's good numbers, man. That definitely scream Carmelo Anthony, right? That was a great comparison.
and he's a 6'5" dude, 6'5" dude with no bunnies. I mean, as Melo, that's the Melo. If he's from Maryland, I mean, come on, what else?
Absolutely. Well, what I wanted to say too, when it comes to taking players off the list, we should add players, right? Who do you think should be on the list if we're going to take them off, right?
Okay, so if I'm going to take off Clyde, which hurts me to do because he was such a fantastic point guard, I'm adding someone who I believe was snubbed, and that is the great Alex English.
Alex English, absolutely. Definitely.
I think Alex English was snubbed because he was too good of a ball player, too good of a scorer, to my opinion, to be ignored by this list. You talk about West Coast teams back then, and you talk about the Nuggets, and Alex English, he would quietly give you 40. You'd be like, "Oh, Alex had a good game. He must have 25." And you look at that stat sheet, like Alex had 40. Woo! He's one of those guys where just if killing them softly was a person, that's Alex English.
I definitely think that's definitely a great filler if you were to take Frazier off, right? Clyde Frazier off. And it hates that I do this. I definitely think Dwight Howard was probably the biggest snub that was taken off, that wasn't included on this list. So if I had to take a point guard off or let's go for his position, first I'll probably take out either Anthony Davis or, Bill Walton. That'll probably be my first selection to take out.
Okay.
One of those two and add Dwight Howard because I definitely think he was well deserving. Dominique Wilkins was a big surprise that I seen made this list, the top 75, because he wasn't on the top 50, I don't believe.
He wasn't, but that was a crime. The fact that there was a couple crimes in the original 50. The fact that Dominique Wilkins wasn't on that list, and the fact that Bob McAdoo wasn't on that list. Yep. Because McAdoo was the only MVP not to be on the top 50.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, how can you not have the dude on this list?
Yeah, that's insane.
That was insane. So McAdoo and Wilkins being on this list is retribution for the fact that they should have been on the 50 list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I definitely wouldn't want to take anything away from Dominique Wilkins. I definitely think he should be on this list. But right, we talking about Bill Walton. I think a surprise person, a lot of viewers probably out there, you probably would be surprised by this name as well, that I think, was probably deserving to be on this list. If you're going to add, the likes of Bill Walton, but Derrick Rose, man. I definitely think Derrick Rose, should have definitely made, some type of noise to be on this list. You don't even hear his name. You hear Kyrie's name being snubbed more than you hear Derrick Rose's name being snubbed. which is completely insane to me.
The fact that people are bringing up Kyrie Irving, in my opinion, is just like, I don't know anybody IRL who's bringing up Kyrie's name. That's only Kendrick Perkins and like talking heads on TV who are talking heads to make noise. Like, I don't know anybody with any common sense who appreciate how good Kyrie Irving is, or sitting there saying Kyrie Irving's one of the 75 best players in history. Nobody is saying that.
No, I definitely don't think Kyrie is definitely one of the biggest snubs. He probably make the list when it comes to the top 100, right? In the next 25 years, Kyrie name's probably going to be on there.
Maybe. But D Rose has things on his resume to bolster that. He's got the MVP. He's got the Rookie of the Year. He's got multiple All-Star appearances. He's got All NBA. You know, he's got those things.
And the way he just transcended the second half of his career, coming back from a major knee injury. You know, it's just insane, man. Every team that, you know, Tom Thibodeau, you know, shout out to him for believing in Derrick Rose, never giving up on him. I definitely think, you know, that put a lot of fire under Derrick Rose to want to come back, right? But man, dropping 50, you know, for when he was playing with the Timberwolves, you know, coming for the Knicks, getting the Knicks in the playoffs, being like the leading scorer in the playoffs for the Knicks, man, like just being that energy guy, even for your Detroit Pistons.
Yo,
man. Like,
I have a great appreciation for what D Rose did in a Pistons jersey, man. And I was serious about trying to cop me a D Rose Pistons jersey. I really wanted to get me one, like, and I was upset that I appreciated the fact that the Knicks had a playoff chance, and he was like, "Can you send me there so I can have a chance to make the playoffs?" And we said yes, but I wanted to keep him because he was one of the bright spots, and I wanted him to kind of, you know, mentor the young guards we had coming in, like with Cade Cunningham with Cade Cunningham and Killian Hayes. Like, D Rose would be a great mentor for them cats. Absolutely. But I appreciate his competitive drive. He knows he only has a few years left, and he wants to do what he can to try to win. And I respect that. I can't be mad at him for that. But his second half of his career, you mentioned the 50 points in Minnesota, bro. I cried after he dropped that 50, man. That was an emotional night.
Oh, man.
And I was so happy for him.
Insane, man. Like concrete rules, man. Like that was insane. Like you said, it was just such a special moment, right? Definitely a special moment. It was a flashback, right? It was kind of a flashback of what we were seeing in Chicago, right? Not so much of the dunking, but you know.
But for me, it was what I said. Oh, when you mentioned Thibodeau, to me, Thibodeau's part of the reason why he got hurt. Because I think he ran them all too hard in practice, and he should have pulled them in that Sixers game when he got hurt, because they were up like 20 with like 2 minutes left and he blows his knee. Like, he should have been out of that game. But my thing with D Rose, and I said when D Rose came back the first time, and then he got hurt immediately again, I said Derek has to change his game if he's going to stay healthy. He can't play that herky-jerky style anymore because his body won't hold up. If he can adapt his game, he can continue to play and be effective. And that's what was like so emotional for me. As I saw him make adaptations to his game, he didn't rely completely on that. He would do 5 herky-jerky moves a game to get some buckets, but he controlled himself. He played in control. He played in pace, and he was effective, and he modified his game. So when he had that 50 piece, I was like, that is the testament of hard work, determination to reinvent yourself, when what you did before got you the MVP, and your brain says, if I'm going to be the man, if I want to be successful, I have to do this. You got to retrain your brain and how to tell your body to move. It was amazing. I don't know if I could put him on the list, but he definitely has an argument compared to someone like Kyrie Irving.
No, absolutely. I definitely say, and that's what my thing was. Like, if you like, I'm hearing all these snubs. Like, even Klay Thompson was a snub that I'm hearing. Not to say that Klay Thompson isn't a great player. I think Klay Thompson is a great player, but yes, you're hearing people say Klay Thompson was snubbed. How could you put Klay Thompson above Derrick Rose? It's insane to me. How could you put Klay Thompson above Tony Parker? Manu is almost insane.
this is where I am on the Klay Thompson overhype. Okay. I love Klay Thompson, but top 75 players in history, and this dude at best has been a number 2. Everybody on the top 75 list should have been an impactful number 1. The man, no question about it, on their squad. There's no room for number 2s on this list. I don't care how great of a number 2. There's no room for that. This ain't the 75 number 2 cats. We can make a list for that. Klay, no, Klay. Yeah. I was gonna go to I want to address your Dwight Howard comments.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. But what strikes me as funny is no more than a year ago, probably less than a year ago, people were saying that Dwight Howard had a Hall of Fame resume, and they were getting mocked for suggesting that Dwight Howard was a Hall of Famer. Now a year, people on ESPN, Fox, people were saying, were mocking, Dwight Howard's not a Hall of Famer. He's underachieved to this and that. And I'm like, I can agree to a certain extent that Dwight has underachieved.
No, absolutely.
But then you look at his resume and you say, he did all of that and he's still underachieved.
Insane, man. 14 years of a straight double-double, man. 14 years straight. I don't know, and please forgive me, there probably are other players out there who have done it, but I'm pretty sure it's a short list, right?
Well, but you know what? Okay, but most of that list is on this list.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
The Elvin Hayeses of the world. The Dirks, the Kevin McHale's, those the McAdoo's, those power forwards, those great all-time power forwards are on this list. And Dwight should be, in my opinion, on this list over a flash in the pan guy like Bill Walton.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And like you said, like Dwight, what I think a lot of people is forgetting about Dwight Howard because of all the goofiness, all the off-court antics, is how much of a force he was in his prime. Like, he was arguably just as dominant during his generation, as the likes of like Wilt and Shaq. Now, he wasn't the scorer that those guys were, but defensively, the guy, come on, man. The guy was 6'9", built like an ox, and jumps completely out the gym, right? They give him 6'11" and something. I think he's like 6'9", maybe 6'10".
Dwight's like 6'10", yeah.
Yeah, I give him like 6'9", 6'10". They labeling him a 7-footer because of the way he jumps and because he has these long, crazy arms. But a 4-time defensive player of the year, you can't ignore that, right? Well, is he 3 times? I don't think he made 4, but 3 times, and I think it was in a row.
He didn't get in a row. He got 4 total DPOYs, but not. Yeah. He didn't get that coveted 4th in a row that him and Ben Wallace were trying to get.
Yeah, that's insane to me, right? Only him and Ben Wallace got that. And that, like, come on, man. Like, you definitely gotta put Dwight Howard in there. The guy was averaging 19 and 13 for almost his whole career. I'm pretty sure he probably got 20,000 career points. If not, he's probably close to it, right? He's probably top 10 or probably close to it in rebound totals. The career average, 12 boards. Again, that's insane, man. Like, I don't understand how Dwight Howard didn't make it. And I get all the antics. I get that he's very goofy, all that stuff. And I'm not even really a Dwight Howard fan. I'm arguing for a guy that I'm not really a big fan of, which is insane to me. But it's a surprise nonetheless. It's like you said, can you tell the story of basketball without Dwight Howard? Well, he's a 4-time defensive player of the year. That's insane. There's not that many players that have done that. He's a force. In his generation, Dwight Howard definitely should have made it. Like Vince Carter should have made it.
I'll definitely agree with that. If I'm, I'm shout out to my man Ish Street and Dion Myers for joining us. Dion says, take Melo off the list and put Dwight Howard on.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
That's insane. I wouldn't take Melo off though.
Okay, I'll give you a name, Dion, that I would take off this list for Dwight Howard, And I hate to do it because I have great respect for the man. But when you look at, he's got accolades, but when you look at the numbers don't match up to other greats. And that is the great Wes Unseld. May he rest in peace. Wes Unseld is he's a career double-double, but he's a career 10.6 points per game and 14 boards. Now, for those who don't know about Wes or didn't watch any classic games of Wes Unseld, he did play in the 70s, and he was a center in a 6'7" center, which isn't weird now when you've got the Clint Capellas and such of the world, or Draymond Green playing center.
I was going to say, arguably the first Draymond Green, Charles Barkley, right?
Right. But, you got a 6'7" guy who was guarding everybody that was 7 footer or 6'11", 7 feet, 7'1", 7'2", and there's 6'7" dude. And honestly, he probably wasn't 6'7". I think Wes's fro gave him like an extra 4 inches. The brother was probably 6'3". He was in there grinding and doing the dirty work. So he ended up winning a Rookie of the Year. He ended up winning an MVP. He's 5-time All-Star, Hall of Famer, NBA championship with the Bullets. Like, amazing accolades. But when you look at the stats, and it's like his highest points per game, 16.2 in his second year. Half his career had less than 10 points a game on average, including the championship season. They won in 78. In 78, he averaged 7.6 points per game.
Yeah, see, and I really think I think Wes really got in because he was one of those rebounding beasts, right? He was kind of like Dennis Rodman, right? Really, probably wasn't going to give you much scoring wise, but he was going to. He had a knack for the ball, right? He had a knack for grabbing rebounds, had a knack, for doing just hustle plays, right? The things that the average player, great player rather, is not going to do, right? You don't really see great players outside of centers grabbing boards and stuff like that, right?
It's a power forward, center thing.
Yeah.
And the extra hustle isn't generally a superstar trait.
No, absolutely not. So I think that's where a lot of his respect, comes from. But I definitely surprised if he was on the list. I actually didn't even know he made this list. I might have glanced over his name and went, it was like, wow, like that's insane. I didn't know that.
It's as much,
pull that list up.
Yes. I look at the list, and there's, he's one of those names. It's like, man, I love Wes. I greatly respect what he did in the game, but unfortunately, sometimes you can't keep everybody from your 50 list. Like you said, times change, other players come, and I love repping the old school, but I look at Wes and it's like, yeah, man, like I don't think I really think you're replaceable. And to me, I can keep an AD and add in Dwight Howard because I'm dropping Bill and Unseld. I can also. Now, there's also the thing that you got players on here who are pre-merger, so NBA ABA merger, and that merger ushered in, the golden era, of basketball, especially into the 80s. So then so you have people
who benefited from that.
Absolutely.
Personally, I definitely think he benefited from that.
Oh yeah. But then you have a lot of guys on here. And my man Ish says he would take Walton off due to injury. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, earlier, like we said, I definitely think there's a lot of injury players that's just as deserving as Bill Walton. Now, they didn't lead their team to a championship like Vince Carter might have, but I definitely think they should have made the list, right? If you're gonna put Bill Walton on there, I feel like you should put Derrick Rose on there. That's just me personally, right? If you're gonna talk about an injury-plagued player,
absolutely. But so let's look at some of these guys pre-merger. Now there's some obviously we would keep no matter what, like the Wilt Chamberlains. or the Dr. J's.
Yeah.
But there's some who was kind of hold on. Dion says, if you're taking Walton off because of injury, you got to take Pistol off too. Dion, that is a fair assessment.
It is.
The only reason I would disagree only because Pistol's impacted so many more players than Walton impacted future power forwards and centers. Zeke, all these moves that we saw Zeke do, we see Kyrie doing, we see Steph doing, we see Russ doing. A lot of these sick handles are derivatives of what we saw Pistol doing. So impact-wise, I could see keeping Pete on, but injuries, that's a fair assessment. I can't be mad at that suggestion.
No, absolutely not. Because what Pistol Pete did, I think he did at least 10 years in the NBA, right? But it was
no, actually, I think it was 9.
9? Oh, I see. And it was injury plagued. But definitely what he did in college, I think, again, kind of like Bill Walton, has a lot to do with him probably being on this list. And kind of like you said, he was a transcendent player. A lot of guys actually patent their game after him, right? They wanted to be that flashy type player. But yeah, I was gonna say, I think, and I think someone in the group, I can't remember who it was, but they brought up Dave Bing, and if you're gonna talk about, the version, I think Dave Bing being on the list it was surprising. Not so much because in his era, you can say that, he dominated.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to the likes of Tracy McGrady, who would you rather have? Would you choose Dave Bing over Tracy McGrady? I don't know if I would choose Dave Bing over Tracy McGrady.
I tell you what, and this is not my Detroit Pistons homerism coming in. Dave Bing is a very underrated player. And I think a lot of people don't really understand how good Dave Bing was. I am 100% on that. Dave Bing is one of those, he should be in that 72 to 79 discussion. He's in that, can you put him on? Can you put him off? And you can have a legitimate discussion on why he could be eke in that 75 or why he should be just outside of it.
Yeah.
For Dave. I'm going to counter Dion real quick. Because Dion said about the impact, that's fine, but you're not going to put Skip Tumalu on the list because of his style influencing the generation. Well said, Dion. I agree. However, if Skip did what he did style-wise and averaged 24 points a game like Pistol did, then I would put Skip on the list. But Skip didn't average no 24 points per game in his career like Pistol did. And half the time, Pistol was blackout drunk when he was doing it. So,
well, with Skip Tumalu, right? You can arguably say that he actually did, put a lot of faith in the younger generation, guys like myself who was growing up watching M1. Even watching Skip Tumalu even make it to the league, even start for the Houston Rockets was insane to me. I was like, wow. This guy that he's known for carrying. He's known for carrying.
Yes. And
he made it to the NBA. Not only did he make it to the NBA, but he did this patented move in the NBA, which is totally insane. So shout out to Dion for bringing him up. But definitely, shout out to Skip Tumalu as well, because I definitely think, him being on M1 basketball and bringing that up, and then it definitely started in New Jersey. And then shout out to Lyndon. But I definitely think, just him making it to the league was a surprise in itself and a blessing.
Absolutely. You were 100% correct on that. Dion says there are other guys that would looked at as much higher regard if the three-point line was available during their time. And he says he's not hitting on Pistol, but if you're taking Bill off because of injuries, then Pete's in the same category. I would slightly disagree with you again, Dion, in that one, Pistol fits that 3-point line discussion you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Because when a couple years at the end of his career, 2 years at the end of his career, when they had the 3-point line, he shot 66% from the 3-point line one year and 75% from the 3-point line his last year. And everyone knows he had crazy range.
Yeah.
Who knows what he would have shot? Like the man averaged 44 a game in college without a 3-point line. Like who knows what he would have done with the 3-point line in college and the pros. And he did have a 10-year season career where every season except for the last two, he averaged like 20 points a game, which is a lot better than what we can say about Bill Walton and his careers. His peak, Walton's career peak was a lot shorter than Pistol's. Pistol at least had 8 full seasons of peak basketball. Ish says Bernard King should be on.
Absolutely. I definitely think Bernard King is deserving of it. You got the likes of Paul Pierce on, and not to take anything away from Paul Pierce, the truth is the truth, but I definitely think if you got Paul Pierce on there, you can definitely have Bernard King on there. Who would you rather have? That's a different question.
That's a different question. So someone mentioned Paul Pierce. I think it was Jewel, and I was like, Paul Pierce. And he was like, yeah, Paul Pierce. And he started listing some of the moments Paul Pierce had. He had that Eastern Conference run when his second best player was Eric Williams. Yep. And then obviously with Ray and KG, they had the title run. And then they ran it back, in 2010 and almost won that. And he's had a lot of great playoff moments. As great as I saw Bernard King play, and Bernard King, I have special pain with Bernard King because Bernard King had that game 5, round 1 against my Pistons when he had the flu and had dislocated middle fingers in each hand and dropped 50 on us and won the series. So like I have personal pain when it comes to Bernard King, and most of these cats today are not playing with the flu, let alone with dislocated middle fingers in each hand and dropping 50 points. They ain't made that way. And he didn't have to fake an injury like Paul did to try to create drama. I ain't forgotten about that, Paul. So
when he left in the wheelchair.
When he left in that wheelchair, like, come on, Paul. Why you gotta do that? So like I'm like, oh, it's tough. I probably would eke out Pierce because I believe Pierce did more, especially come playoff time. And we saw what Pierce did against LeBron in Cleveland. We saw what he did against them, even though they ended up losing against them in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And even we saw what Paul continued to do when they sent him to Brooklyn and they made waves in the playoffs. And then what he did for Washington in the playoffs, at the end of his career. So I got to say I would go with Paul Pierce over Bernard King as much as I love Bernard King.
No, absolutely.
We've got another comment from Lines Churliss, who says, remove Robert Parrish. Len says, remove Robert Parrish and place Derrick Rose and or Vince Carter in there. So he agrees with you on those two, but removing Robert Parrish, that's a tough one. That is a tough one.
Robert Parrish is, I can't. It's funny because when I first seen the list and when I was thinking of Dwight Howard, Robert Parrish was one of the first names that came to me until I seen Bill Walton's name. But then, but Robert Parrish, man, like, what he played 21 years, like it's like Vince Carter's. He's up there, right? Mm-hmm. And he had those great years with the Celtics, man, as a key piece of their big three, like winning.
Most people don't know because we weren't alive. Is that the great years he had with Golden State before he got to the Celtics, and then the solid years he had with the Hornets before after Boston, and then that one year he had with the Bulls in '97, giving him yet another championship. Like the man played from 76 to 97. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and that is definitely ridiculous. But like I said, Robert Parrish, you can't take him off this list. You can't. Longevity. He's a champion. There's other people on this list I think should be taken off before I would take off Robert Parrish.
Yeah, what center do you replace him with? I don't.
Yeah, who would you? And that's kind of picking back off of what I said earlier, right? If we take somebody off, we got to replace them, right? If I take off Robert Parrish, who would I replace him with?
Would you?
That's not on this list.
Well, we mentioned a center that's not on this list in Lonzo Mourning. Would you replace him with Zoe?
It's a good question. Probably not, because again, longevity, availability is the best ability, right? And Parrish was available. Zoe had, and it's not to take anything away from Lonzo. He was great, but it was a few seasons that he missed, right? Due to health concerns and what have personal things that you really can't. You can't
control kidney issues.
I can't take that from him, because that's just life, right?
Right.
But again, availability is the best ability, and Robert Parrish was there. So I will not take Zoe off this list. I won't take Robert Parrish off this list to add Zoe. Okay. I definitely think, he's definitely deserving on this list. I see people talking about taking Patrick Ewing off, and I think Patrick Ewing is deserving of this list. Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, those people are on crack. Those people don't deserve to be acknowledged. Those people spoken something. You got a shout out from your girl Candace, who says, "Matt, my tall dude," with a heart.
Hey, welcome, Candace. Welcome.
All right, let's see. Oh, okay. So I'm surprised to see this from Dion, and I appreciate his engagement. Dion says, "Why does everyone disrespect Joe Dumars? He belongs on this list, in his opinion." What do you think about Joe Dumars should be added onto this list? And if you add Joe, who do you take off?
Yeah, man, it's kind of like what you said about Klay Thompson earlier, right? When it comes to Joe Dumars, and Joe Dumars was a key piece for your boys winning their championships, right? Was labeled the Jordan stopper, right? But
it's not even a label. Like, to this day, someone asked, "Who's the best person who defended you in your career?" Without hesitation, he says Joe Dumars. It's like there's zero hesitation.
Absolutely. And that's what he's known for. He's definitely known for that. But he was a number 2, right?
Yes.
And it's even argued if he was really a number 2, right? Because there's a lot of other guys you can label a number 2 as well from that Detroit Pistons team.
Well, though the Pistons would probably say actually that Joe was the number 3, because the hierarchy was Zeke, Lambeer, Joe, and everybody else.
Yep. Absolutely. So I can't really put Joe on this list because he wasn't really that guy. And if he was that guy at one point in time, would he been transcendent? Would he have gotten your Pistons as far as they have gotten with Zeke and Lambeer's help, with Dennis Rodman's help?
I don't think so. And I'm one of the biggest Joe Dumars fans out there. Like, that's my dude. I'm still, even though he drafted Darko, that's still my dude. I love Joe Dumars so much. But the years he didn't have Zeke, the early Grant Hill years when he was still playing, he was effective. He was solid and still playing. I think, still playing at an all-star level. He made an all-star team in one of his later years. He was still super good. But he was never, like I said, you mentioned with the Klay Thompson thing I said earlier, he was never the dude. He was never the guy. And this is not a list for number 2s. I would definitely put Joe Dumars on my top number 2 players of all time. Sure. I would gladly do that. But 75, that's got to be a list of, you got to be the man. You got to be number one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I apologize for that. But I definitely think that, I agree with you. You got to be a number one if you're going to be on this list. And that's why I put up Derrick Rose, because I feel like a lot of people have forgotten, kind of like what Dwight Howard did early in his career, how important Derrick Rose was earlier in his career, right? I definitely think, Derrick Rose was huge for Chicago earlier in his career. And again, he led his team to the Eastern Conference Championship a few times. And I think he should have been on this list. Well, more deserving on this list than a lot of other folks who they feel like were snubbed. Oh, do we have some technical difficulties? All right, so we're going to wait on you to come back, Matt. So I'm waiting for Matt to come back. Let me see the comments here. What you guys are saying. So you say, Deion saying you understand my initial point about number twos, but no one's questioning Kobe on the list, and he definitely was a number two for more than half the titles. Pippen was a number two for his entire career, but is he deserving of being on this list? Deion, to rebuttal your two comments, you're definitely right? First, let's go about the Kobe situation. Kobe without Shaq in the beginning of those years could definitely, it could be an argument that Kobe probably would never have had those 3 championships without Shaq. However, when Shaq left and went to Miami and went to these other teams without Kobe had it set in his mind that he wanted to win more championships than Shaq. Right? And he made sure of it to lead the Lakers to 2 more titles, right? Once he got Pau Gasol, and it was basically was the limit for the Lakers, right? They got 2 championships. So, and plus Kobe is one of the top 5 greatest scorers to ever play the game. So I definitely think he's definitely well deserving of being on this list. Scottie Pippen was definitely a bona fide number 2. But when Jordan retired, Scottie Pippen led the Chicago Bulls to the playoffs. Not only that, they only lost, I think, maybe 1 or 2 more games after Jordan retired. And outside of a bad call from a ref, arguably outside of a bad call from the referee, Chicago Bulls would have probably, beat the Knicks and would have went to the finals to versus Houston. So I definitely think Scottie is well deserving to be on this list as well. But it's definitely a good topic, a good debate topic to bring up for those two. Kobe, I think is personally, I think Kobe should be on this list no matter what.
I saw what Deion said now that I'm back because RCN blows with the internet.
That's quite fun.
So the Pippen argument, you probably covered it. Pip did have a short period as the man. Mentally, he didn't get it done greatly, but he did his thing in Portland. And the year after they didn't have Mike, they, like you said, bad call away from beating the Knicks. Kobe had too much of a run as not being the number 2 to not be considered a number 1. There's this way too long of a time as the man in LA for that. But I was but we were talking about. See, Dion mentioned the Rose Love. Okay, uh, Grant Hill. Yeah, you can say that. Same thing. People can say the same thing about Grant until he got injured, but unfortunately, Grant got injured, and when he came back, he was nowhere near the same player. Like he's not someone you can really throw into a list like this. It's just he doesn't have he eked into the Hall of Fame because of his great college career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And with Grant Hill's great career, like we said about Grant Hill, the first 6 years arguably was something like man was what, a rebound shy, maybe assist shy from averaging a triple double. Grant Hill was unbelievable. Was an unbelievable player. Should he be on this list? Again, like if we're gonna add Grant Hill on this list, who would you take off if you were to add Grant Hill? Do I think he's deserving? Does he have the accolades to be on this list? Absolutely. But I can't really think of who I would take off if I was gonna add Grant Hill.
You can't put Grant Hill on. Like that's
Yeah.
can't. This is how terrible RCN is. I'm using my phone so I can connect to the internet. That's how terrible RCN is. It's horrible. Yeah, you can't. Grant Hill should not be in this guy. Okay. Okay, Ish was comparing Grant to Derrick Rose. You can't compare Grant to Derrick Rose though because Derrick did get that MVP. And so and Derrick really only has an argument when you're saying that when people are saying Kyrie Irving should be on the list, which he definitely should not. So that's the response. Like if people are saying Kyrie, they should maybe talking about Derrick Rose more than Kyrie because at least he has accolades that are similar to the top 75.
Oh, and what has Kyrie done when he was the man?
Nothing. He hit a shot as the number 2.
Yeah. And outside, and that's what you're supposed to do. Like everybody brings up the shot, like that's your teammate. That's what you're supposed to do.
That is your job.
Exactly. Now, when you go and you get yourself out of there, you talk yourself out, right? And you go to the Celtics, you're supposed to bring that young team to a championship, right? To arguably be a championship, and you get hurt, and that team does better without you.
Like, yes, they played better without him.
Yeah, so it's like come on, Kyrie. And Kyrie's a great player, and he's a Jersey boy. Like I played against him in King College, like in street ball. I love the kid. Him and Michael Kidd Gilchrist. Shout out to Michael Kidd Gilchrist. Like, Liz, I know you probably remember that day. But shout out to you too. But I can't, I can't put Kyrie on there. I can't. Especially when, like we said, Derrick Rose is not on there. Derrick Rose is not even being mentioned amongst snubs, which is totally insane to me. It's like people just forgot what Derrick Rose was. He's one of the most athletic point guards to ever play this game, right? It wasn't just Russell Westbrook out of nowhere.
and it wasn't like Derrick Rose from 30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Dion asks, can we admit that Sam Jones is overrated and should be, he says on, I'm guessing Dion means off, should be off this list.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can admit that Sam Jones is a bit overrated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's iffy about shouldn't be on this list because Sam Jones was a baller. But definitely Sam is overrated, as a lot of Celtics are. Especially early Celtics because
especially in that era.
Yeah, I mean, the pre-merger, late 50s, 60s, 70s Celtics, it was unfair. And I mean, honestly, you can have a question mark on, and not that they weren't great, but Dave Cowens, another Celtic, I respect him, but you could probably replace him.
Yep.
I mean, I can't replace Hondo because he was the man in the 70s for them, but
What
definitely
about
Sam.
Kuzi stole the ball?
Oh, Havlicek, but Havlicek stole the ball.
Yeah, I mean when
That was the
Havlicek
call.
stole the ball.
Havlicek stole the ball. It's
Yeah.
all over. It's all over. Kuzi, everyone gives him the flack because he only dribbled with one hand. Granted, what he did during his time, even with one hand, was innovative. So I can't. And Kuzi could play. It's not like Kuzi was. It's not like Kuzi was one of these guys in the Celtics that got accolades that I really personally do not think were that good. Like Don Nelson. A lot of people don't know that Nelly was. A lot of people don't know that Nelly was on some of those championship squads as a player, and Nelly wasn't that good. There are other players that, in my opinion, that they made out to sound really good that were not that good, and thankfully most of them are not on this list. But I mean, some of these guys got a little overhyped because they played in Boston, and as good as Sam Jones was, I think that he does benefit from the proximity to that.
Celtics. No, absolutely. How many of those teammates actually made this list? I think it's like 4 or 5 of them.
Oh, Celtics?
Yeah, John Havlicek, Sam Jones, Bob Cousy. They're all on this list, aren't they?
Well, so when you look at Celtics, well, okay, Tiny's on this list, but I don't consider Tiny a Celtic because most of his time was outside of Boston, even though he did win a championship with them. So you can kind of count Tiny. Obviously, there's Bird. Then there's Kuzi, Dave Cowens. Then we've got Garnett played a significant time in Boston. Then we've got Havlicek and Sam Jones. And I don't consider Pistol a Celtic, though he did spend a year or two in Boston. McHale and Parrish and Paul Pierce.
God, there's a lot of Celtic greats.
There's a lot of Celtics.
I want to know strictly from that 60s team.
And then 60. Bill Russell, Kuzi.
Bill Russell,
Kuzi, Havlicek, Sam Jones. I mean, look, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So I think that's it. I think that's 4 players from that particular era.
Now, do you feel like all 4 deserve it?
Oh man! Actually, you know what? No. I'm sorry. We're missing Bill Sharman. Bill Sharman was on the Celtics in the 50s. And he's on there, and Bill Sharman's on there. And that's the other guy. It's like, unless you're someone like myself who has spent way too many hours studying basketball, you don't know who Bill Sharman is.
No.
Most players don't know who he is, but he's another old time Celtic. Candace says take Cowens off. So does Dion. Ish says, what about DJ?
Cowens.
Should DJ be on the list?
You talking about Dennis Johnson?
Yeah.
I
think DJ's Hall of Fame and deservedly so, but I don't think DJ's top 75.
No. Who would you replace? I'll take Dennis Johnson off. I'll put Vince Carter up there before Dennis Johnson easily. I definitely can. I'll take him off.
I look at these players and like most of these players I'm not replacing.
Nah.
I mean, there's some I would replace because of that we discussed, but most of these other players that we haven't talked about, I can't. Like actually, how about a newer one that I think should not be on here a little early, and that's Kawhi Leonard. I like Kawhi, and he's good, and he's got those 2 titles. One of them where he was he's got those titles, and one of them he was the driving force behind. But
yeah,
it seems he doesn't have the MVPs. His accolades are a little short for me to say he's top 75.
And Kawhi's defense, he's a 2-time defensive player of the year, right? 2-time finals MVP. He won one of those at I think 21, right? He was real young when he won one of those finals.
He was really
MVP.
Young in 2014 with Spurs, yeah.
Arguably, if he didn't get hurt, he probably would have beat that Golden State team when he was with the Spurs, right? Before that quote unquote dirty play happened. Right. But if I was to take Kawhi off, who would I put on? I
like him, and I think he's building. I mean, he gets a couple more accolades, and
he does.
And he's a Hall of Fame lock. He gets a couple more accolades, and actually, he might have enough accolades now as a Hall of Fame lock. But
he's definitely a lock.
To say he's top 75, even forget some of today's guys. There are older like Bill Sharman. Okay, I would take Bill Sharman. I would take Bill Sharman off and replace him with somebody like Dan Issel. A much better player, and a player that's often forgotten on how great Dan Issel was. There's just a guard wise, you've got a little too many. I don't know, like some of these point guards. Okay. People talk about his MVPs. I think his MVPs are fraudulent. Steve Nash. I don't buy Steve Nash. And if I have John Stockton on my list, I don't need Steve Nash. So
that's a great argument. Who would you take off though? I mean, who would you put on? If you take Steve Nash off, right? Because you're right. You got Jason Kidd, you got Stockton there, right?
You got Stockton, you got Magic, you got Zeke.
You got Magic, right?
Yeah.
Who basically all played Steve Nash's position and arguably played it way better than him. Right?
You got Chris, and you've got GP and Chris Paul on here too.
Yep. And Chris Paul is deserving on it. GP's even deserving on it. Yeah. Who would you take off though? Now as a point guard. Right? Are you going to add another point guard? Are you going to go outside of a point guard? Are you going to go guard? Because there's still a lot of great players. Like I don't think he added, right? We ain't add Tony Parker. Do you think Tony Parker should be on this list?
See, I think
shout out to Mike because I think Mike is the one who first mentioned Tony Parker.
Tony Parker is one of those. Okay, there's 2 guards I can think of that I will replace Nash with that I believe had more impact on NBA history ultimately than Steve Nash. One is Paul Westphal, and the other one is Tony Parker. I would replace Steve Nash with either of those 2 players.
Mm-hmm.
But Tony Parker definitely, and his performance for the Spurs, his Finals MVP, and the fact that the guy was 6'1", led the league in scoring in the paint for like a couple seasons. Undervalued, not a great defender, but a much better defender than Steve No Defense Nash. Steve Nash is by far the worst. Even Dirk, whose defense is crazy suspect, better defender than Steve Nash. Steve Nash
Mm-hmm.
is like, if you're like, great players sometimes aren't great at defense or not even like good, but you're not supposed to be a defensive liability. Steve Nash was such a defensive liability where you look at every one of these other players, even Steph Curry, and sometimes they hide him on defense, but he wasn't a liability. He's not a liability on defense because at least he can play the passing lanes like
Yep.
AI did and be effective and get steals. Steve Nash couldn't even do that. He was
wasn't athletic enough.
He just wasn't. He just couldn't play defense. It was terrible. Even when he was Fat Nash, I call it, like, he wasn't fat, but he was husky Nash in Phoenix. I thought it was because he was a little bulky, but then he lost the weight in Dallas, and then he went back to Phoenix, and he still couldn't play defense. So I was like, okay, it's not because you're overweight; it's just because you can't move your feet. Like, everyone else here couldn't play solid defense except for Steve Nash.
Absolutely. Nash is one of those players, definitely a Hall of Famer. Top 75 player though of all time. I probably would take Nash off. There's definitely more deserving players. Like, and I feel like a lot of players, like, you know, like that they were, like, you're mentioning, like Dion was mentioning Manu, right? I think Manu is a great player. But Manu had a lot of success for internationally, right? And the list is more so what you did in the NBA. Yes. And even though he had a lot of success internationally, killing USA, especially the Olympics. I don't know if I can just add Manu on this list over other players who were the main guys on their team. You know, like Tracy McGrady, Vince Carter, other names that we mentioned earlier, right? Derek
Absolutely.
Rose, you know, Dwight Howard, a bunch of other names of guys who were the main focus points of these teams and were completely left off this list. That comeback against the Spurs that Tracy McGrady had on Houston Rockets in 13 seconds or whatever, 33 seconds, I believe, was like 13 points, 33 seconds. That was one of the best things I ever watched live on TNT. I never forget that game. and Tracy, I feel like, is deserving to be on the list. And injuries, of course, plagued his career, but you know, he was the main guy on every team that he's been in, except for, I believe, the Toronto Raptors.
Right. And like Manu, and I was talking to Drew about this earlier, like, I understand the love for Manu and I respect Manu, but he's a bench player who averaged 13 points a game. And to me, and he's like, well, his playoffs, I'm like, I mean, I understand he did well in the playoffs, and he had a couple seasons where he averaged 20 points a game. 2 years he played 20 points a game in the playoffs. But I mean, his career playoff average is 14. And his career average is like 13.3. And I said to him, well, if that makes Manu top 75, then Cornbread Maxwell is top 75 because he has the same career numbers as Manu plus the finals MVP on those 80s Boston Celtics teams that he won 2 championships with. Or if that's the case, Vinnie Johnson is top 75, who averaged 1 point less per game than Manu for his career, playing in a much harder defensive era and was a better defensive player and won 2 championships. Like, if we're like, this is not a bench player list. As good as Manu is and as great as moments he had, offensively and defensively for the Spurs, Manu is not one of the 75 best players to ever play in the NBA. That's just to me that's ludicrous.
Hall of Famer, great teammate, by all means. That's exactly what Manu was. What Manu is. Top 75 greatest NBA players that ever played the game. Manu is not that. Definitely not that. But I definitely enjoyed Manu in his time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, much respect, much enjoy watching him play. Like my favorite Manu play is that block he had on Harden in the playoffs when he was like
Oh man.
35 and nobody saw that coming. I was just like, I mean, is Manu not a great not a great defender, but he had great anticipation and he knew the game and he studied the game and he knew Harden's tendencies and he timed that block perfectly. Like, fantastic plays. But
And, go ahead, go ahead.
but there's, I can make a list of fantastic plays from other considerable role players who just they're not top 75, and especially when your career numbers are low, and you weren't a starter most of your career and there's a plethora of players who average 20 plus points per game in this league that aren't even in close to consideration.
Yup. Antoine Jameson.
Yeah,
Right?
you got the Terry Cummings of the world.
Yup.
The Dale Ellis's, guys who just went out and got. I mean, the fact that we mentioned Alex English, Dan Issel, another one of those players, Kiki Vandeweghe. There are so many players
man, that was a great
went
man.
out and got straight buckets. That's like saying Kelly Tripucka. I'm like should be. I'm like and Kelly in that porn stash got buckets.
Yep.
But they aren't even in consideration for a reason.
No, they weren't transcended.
Absolutely not.
But like Manu, shout out to Manu because what he did was he brought something to the NBA that's gonna probably be around forever, which is that Euro step.
See, stop lying to these people. I'm gonna say it right now for those who don't know, who haven't seen the footage. They call it a Euro step. That's a lie because one, Manu is not European. He's from South America. He's from Argentina. And number two, and most important, Elgin Baylor was doing that sidestep in the 50s. It should be called the Baylor step. He's the one who made it hot. They rebranded it, calling it a Euro step. That is Elgin Baylor's move. Put some respect on Elgin Baylor's Baylor step.
Absolutely.
But Fresh, my man, we have been at this an hour and a half, and I am thankful for your time. And I want to respect the time of everyone who has come out here and watched and participated. So I'm going to call this an episode. We are going to do part 2 next Wednesday. I am officially inviting Fresh to come back to reiterate some of his points. Hopefully my man Jules Spears will be on too, so I can have them clash, because I like to do that. I like to stir the pot. I want to give a shout out to every single person who watched this stream and participated. Dion Myers, Ish Street, Isaiah Seaborn, Lenz, Candace, everybody. If I missed somebody, my bad, but I really appreciate everyone's watching this and support. You can check out Jeek Nation on Facebook, JEEK Nation. You can check out our podcast. We have a pro wrestling podcast and our original Jeek podcast where we talk about all things sports, all things geek. And if you're interested in more things like this that we do, definitely check those out. But until next time, love, peace, and hair grease. We are out.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me again, Matt. Can't wait till next week.
Absolutely, my friend.
All right, brother. Take care.